Rendering virtual textures is a lot of fun, and this is one way in which you can get very creative with generating virtual environments for your HapKit. The issue with virtual textures is there's so many ways to do it that I can't possibly cover them all, but let me just describe one way of how we can generate virtual textures, and that's by using the damping equation that we described earlier. So that damping equation was as follows: F equals BV. But now, instead of displaying damping all of the time, we say only render that if P user is inside the damping area. So if the position of the user is inside of the damping area, then we render this force. Otherwise, we don't render any force. So here the user is outside this damping field, but if the user moved this way, let's imagine it's a one-dimensional environment, so the user just moves along this horizontal line, there'll be an area where there's no force, and then there's going to be a force, and then no force, and then a force. And you will be doing basically collision detection with these damping areas, and you'll be defining their locations to say you should turn on the force according to this equation, or you should turn off the force and set the force equal to 0. So you would go like that all the way through as the user is traveling through this environment. That's for a 1D environment. If you have a 2-dimensional or higher degree of freedom haptic device, then you could create patches of damping. You can do all kinds of different patterns. But in our case, we'll just do a 1 degree of freedom rendering, where as you travel across these damping fields, you're going to feel a pattern of forces when you're in the damping field and no forces when you're outside of a damping field. Now, one of the interesting side effects of rendering virtual textures with damping is that when you first hit the virtual environment, there's going to be a force discontinuity. So you can see that if you go into this area right here, you're in this space beforehand where you're getting no forces, and all of a sudden you're feeling a force which is proportional to your velocity. And if you hit it with a reasonable amount of velocity, you're actually going to get a little bit of vibration of the haptic device due to the fact that your device is trying to create a sudden discontinuity, a very sudden jump in force, which motors can't instantaneously do. And so due to the motor and the mechanisms in your device, it's going to vibrate a tiny bit. So you're going to feel some vibration that's going to die out quite quickly as you enter these damping fields. You can think of this as a bug or a feature. It can actually make the virtual environment feel very compelling to have those sorts of virtual environments. It can make the whole experience be richer. But again, you're always trying to decide what is it that I want to render and display that to the user. So you may want to adjust your damping coefficient to be higher or lower so that those vibrations do or don't occur.